He slapped her in broad daylight, a poor girl helping an old woman cross the street. The crowd gasped, phones filmed, but no one helped. Humiliated and silent, she walked away. What he didn't know was, she wasn't poor at all, and soon the world would know her name. It was just past 2 p.m., and the city of Lagos simmered under the punishing sun. The streets were alive with chaos. Taxi horns, street hawkers shouting, engines roaring, and crowds moving like restless waves. Amid all the motion stood a young girl in plain clothes, holding a plastic bag, waiting patiently at a busy junction. She blended into the crowd. No makeup, no jewelry, her hair tied back in a simple bun. No one would guess by looking at her that she had ever known a life of wealth, let alone privilege. Her name was Allah. As she waited for the traffic to clear, she noticed an elderly woman struggling to cross. The old woman trembled with each step, gripping a wooden cane, visibly frightened by the speeding cars. Without hesitation, Allah stepped forward. "Mama, let me help you," she said gently, offering her arm. The woman smiled gratefully. "God bless you, my daughter." Together, they moved slowly through the traffic, carefully weaving between the chaos. Just as they reached the other side, Allah's elbow brushed against the side mirror of a glossy black Mercedes-Benz parked along the curb. She didn't notice it, but someone else did. The car door burst open. A sharply dressed man in a black designer suit stepped out. Tall, commanding, with expensive sunglasses and an expression carved from arrogance. "Are you blind? Do you even know what kind of car this is?" Allah froze, still holding the old woman's arm. I'm sorry, sir, I didn't—" Before she could finish, his hand flew across her face. A hard, sharp slap cracked through the air. Gasps erupted from the crowd. The city's noise seemed to vanish in that instant. People stared, phones came out, but no one stepped forward. Allah stood frozen, her cheek red, her plastic bag now on the ground. She blinked in disbelief, tears stinging but refusing to fall. "People like you," the man sneered, "don't belong near things you can't afford. Do you have any idea who I am?" She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came. The crowd remained still, silent witnesses to humiliation. The old woman squeezed her hand, whispering, "My daughter, leave him. God is watching." Allah bent down, picked up her bag, and whispered, "Mama, let's go." No anger, no screams, no threats, just dignity. She turned and walked away, head lowered, shame burning hotter than the sun overhead. But what the man didn't know, what no one knew, was that the girl he just humiliated had a last name that could ruin his entire world. Allah didn't cry when she reached home, a modest apartment tucked away in a quiet neighborhood far from the world that once knew her name. She dropped the plastic bag on the floor and walked straight to her room, locking the door behind her. She stood in front of the mirror, touching her swollen cheek. The redness was fading, but the sting remained, not just on her skin, but in her soul. This wasn't supposed to happen. 2 weeks ago, she had returned to Nigeria after 7 years of studying abroad in London. Not as a guest, not as a princess, but in secret, on her own terms. She didn't want security guards or flashing cameras. She wanted to understand how her country treated people who had no power, no name, no status. So she disguised herself, wore simple clothes, took public buses, walked the streets. No one recognized her. Until today. His face replayed in her mind. The man who slapped her. His arrogance. His voice. His words. She could still feel his hand against her skin, not just as pain, but as a message. You're nothing. He didn't know that her full name was Allah Benson Okoche, the only daughter of Chief Benson Okoche, one of the most powerful and wealthy businessmen in Africa. His companies controlled entire sectors: oil, real estate, telecom. His name opened doors across continents. But Allah had never liked being the billionaire's daughter.
Her father raised her to be kind, educated, and strong, not spoiled or untouchable. She wanted to earn respect, not inherit it. Still, the injustice burned. The slap wasn't just personal, it was symbolic. A man of power humiliating a woman he thought was beneath him simply because of her appearance. That night, she called her father. "Papa," she said softly, voice trembling. "Allah, what's wrong?" She hesitated. "I need your help, but I don't want you to fix it for me. I just need you to give me space. I want to do something, my way." He was silent for a moment, then replied, "I trust you. Whatever it is, make sure he remembers who you are, not because of my name, but because of yours." She ended the call and opened her laptop. With trembling hands, she began typing. She found his company, Tunde Williams, CEO of one of Nigeria's rising tech firms, young, rich, popular, a media darling. He had no idea who she was, but he would. Soon. 2 days later, the conference hall of the Lagos Grand Towers buzzed with reporters, investors, and media influencers. It was the much-anticipated Future Tech Africa Summit, and Tunde Williams, sharp in his designer suit, was the keynote speaker. Flash bulbs followed his every move as he smiled, shook hands, and basked in the admiration. He stood at the podium, cocky and confident. "In this generation," he began, "we rise by innovation, not emotion. Business has no room for weakness." Applause echoed. Backstage, a woman in a navy blue dress watched from the shadows. Her poise was elegant. Her hair was neatly tied. Her presence radiated quiet power. It was Allah. No more simple clothes, no more blending in. This time she was ready, not for revenge, but for truth. The event organizer announced a surprise final speaker. Ala Benson Okoye, Executive Director of Benson Holdings and international humanitarian. Gasps, murmurs. Tunde froze. She walked gracefully onto the stage, the crowd erupting in surprise. Cameras flashed like lightning. The man who hit her was now blinking, confused as her face became clearer under the lights. She reached the microphone. "2 days ago," Allah began calmly, "a man hit me in public. I was helping an old woman cross the street when he humiliated me, not knowing who I was, not caring because he assumed I was poor." Dead silence. Tunde's mouth parted slightly. His face went pale. "I'm not here to shame him. I'm here to speak for every girl who's been judged by her clothes, every poor person treated like garbage, every hand slapped for trying to do good." She glanced briefly at Tunde, who looked like he wanted the earth to swallow him whole. "The man who hit me is in this room. And while I could sue him or destroy his career with one post, I won't." Tunde looked up in disbelief. "I want him to live with the knowledge that the girl he shamed was no less human than him. That status means nothing if your heart is empty." The audience rose in thunderous applause. Some people were in tears, others whispered her name in awe. Allah walked off the stage, passing Tunde, who now stood in the corner like a statue. Their eyes met, hers calm, his filled with shame. She didn't speak to him. She didn't need to. Her presence had said everything. Later that night, Tunde posted a public apology. It went viral. His company's stock dipped, endorsements paused. But Allah didn't care for headlines. She had made her point. Not with power, but with grace. Weeks passed, but the memory of that slap didn't fade from people's minds. The video of Allah's speech continued to circulate, touching millions across the country and beyond. Social media exploded with hashtags like "We are all Allah" and "Dignity has no price." Young girls posted their own stories of humiliation, poverty, and survival. Allah had unknowingly become a symbol, not of revenge, but of dignity and quiet strength. As for Tunde Williams, his once sterling image never fully recovered. Though he wasn't canceled completely, he was no longer the poster boy for modern leadership. Every interview he gave was shadowed by that moment. He later stepped down from several board roles and took a leave of absence. Some said he disappeared to Europe for reflection. Others whispered that guilt haunted him more than any scandal ever could. But Allah? She flourished. She used her platform to open a foundation in her mother's name, the Mama Grace Foundation, focused on helping underprivileged women get access to education, clean water, and fair treatment. The very old woman she helped that day, Allah found her again, gave her a new home, and made her the first honorary ambassador of the foundation. People around Allah began to understand that her wealth wasn't what made her powerful. It was her integrity, her quiet resistance, her refusal to return hate with hate. She had shown that true character shines not when you're being celebrated, but when you're being humiliated and you choose to rise above it. One morning during an interview, a journalist asked Allah, "If you could go back to that moment when you were slapped, would you change anything?" Allah smiled gently. "No," she said, "because that slap didn't break me. It revealed the cracks in our society, how quick we are to judge, how cruel we become when we think no one's watching. I wouldn't change that moment. It led me to my purpose." And so, the girl once mistaken for nobody became the voice for everybody. Her story wasn't about revenge or pity. It was about the strength of quiet resilience, about the courage it takes to walk away, not with fists, but with your head held high. In the end, she didn't just teach one arrogant billionaire a lesson, she taught a nation. And perhaps she reminded all of us, never judge anyone by what they wear. You may be looking at royalty in disguise.